Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. So we are back again today, and boy, I'm happy with the results in New Hampshire, despite New Hampshire voting for Kamala Harris. Well, this race has a lot of context that needs to be put into. So first off, we need to understand New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire is just like North Carolina. They kind of vote Republican. North Carolina, for example, presidency, they vote Republican. Down ballot races with the governor's races, along with other executive branches, and they said like the auditor, the Secretary of State, they go Democratic. Okay, North Carolina, New Hampshire, New Hampshire, same deal. Nothing really different. The only difference with New Hampshire, though, is New Hampshire mainly does the other way around. They elect Democrats for the presidency. They've done that for now around 24 years now. Actually, no. Really? Maybe 20 years at least. 20 years for Democrats. If you really starts in 2004. That's the streak that makes it start. So that's the one the voting streak starts. And that goes to today. And unfortunately, New Hampshire has gone to a point where we're electing radical leftists like Kamala Harris to be president. Now, if this was New Hampshire back in 2016 or New Hampshire back in 2012, there was no way on planet Earth that Kamala Harris would win New Hampshire. I knew New Hampshire was going to be very close. The polls have said it all the way through. It was a potential battleground, although many people didn't really recognize and didn't really know that it was actually going to be this much of a battleground state, where Kamala Harris is only winning the state by 2. That's what ultimately ended up happening. But let's take a look at the governor's race. Different story. You'll see Kelly Ayotte. I keep saying it's Ayotte. It's actually Kelly Ayotte, who she ended up sweeping the state by a 8 to 9 point margin, 53.6% to Joyce Craig's 44.3%. Kelly Ayotte is a recognizable figure in New Hampshire. She is a former U.S. Senator, and because she came from a blue state, she held on to some progressive left-wing positions. Taking a look at those political positions, you'll see I would say they're more moderate here. So during her U.S. Senate term, Ayotte was described as both a conservative Republican and a centrist. After her 2010 election, the Associated Press referred to Ayotte as a conservative Republican, and 2 years later, NBC News described her unique identity in the Senate as a Northeastern conservative Republican woman. She demonstrated centrist tendencies in her voting record, including working with Democrats on some issues. The New York Times described her as a moderate Republican. The Lugar Center at Georgetown University ranked Ayotte as the 11th most bipartisan member of the U.S. Senate during the 113th Congress. The American Conservative Union gave her a 64% lifetime score, and the Progressive Americans for Democratic Action gave her a 35% score. The nonpartisan National Journal gave her a composite score of 67% conservative and 33% liberal based on her voting record. So yeah, she's more conservative, but I would describe her as a Lisa Murkowski, not as left-wing though, or possibly a Susan Collins to a point. During her gubernatorial campaign, Ayotte expressed fiscally conservative positions, using the slogan, "Don't mass it up," to contrast her views against more liberal Massachusetts to the south. That's actually a good strategy if you think about it. I also saw that debate and that ad of Madam former U.S. Senator Ayotte using that slogan, "Don't mass it up," meaning don't follow Massachusetts, far left woke Massachusetts, and I would say don't Vermont it up, in other words, because Vermont, the upside down version of New Hampshire is becoming New Hampshire's kind of shifting into a Vermont, kind of. When you elect buffoons like Kamala Harris, a left-wing radical, you're starting to become like a Vermont. In other words, I get New Hampshire wasn't as aggressive for Kamala Harris, but if this was the Vermont 8 years ago, there's no way for Kamala Harris would. If this was the New Hampshire 8 years ago, there's no way that Kamala Harris would even get away with carrying the state. It's absolutely ridiculous. But of course, this is what we're seeing here. She is pro-Trump to a point. But yeah, let's see. I want to know. She was somewhat pro-abortion. Okay, in 2024, Ayotte said she supports the current New Hampshire abortion law, which permits abortion on request until 24 weeks of pregnancy, and she kind of has to. Yeah, in 2010, she said that Roe v. Wade should have been overturned. So yeah, she's very moderate when it comes to that. Yeah, in 2024, Ayotte said that she opposes laws that keep a student's gender identity confidential, arguing that she supports law requiring schools to inform parents about a student's gender identity at school. That's good. So parents know that what their son's actually doing. So absolutely. So interesting. Yeah, Kelly Ayotte's good. She's sort of like John Sununu, Chris Sununu, not John Sununu. That's the brother, Chris Sununu. So obviously, governor-elect. She did pretty well in 2010. Was defeated in 2016 by Maggie Hassan, but made a return 8 years late. 8 years, I would say 8 years. Yeah, 8 years later in 2024, makes a successful run for governor, and of course that name Ayotte, it remains. And Joyce Craig, no one really knows who Joyce Craig is. That period. Joyce Craig, yeah, she is, of course, she's the mayor of, let's see, the mayor of Manchester, and that does explain, let's see, Manchester didn't even vote for her. That's insane. Joyce Craig is the mayor of this city, and the city of Manchester didn't even vote for her. This is a garbage candidate. Joyce Craig, no one even knows. She must be a really unpopular and unlikable mayor, if you really do think about it. But yes, obviously, huge victory, and you'll see New Hampshire has been electing Republicans for some time, going back throughout history. 2016, Sununu was first elected. Okay, yeah, 2014. That was the last time. This would be the last time, Maggie Hassan. That would be the last time that New Hampshire would elect a Democrat. In other words. But yes, you see what I'm saying here. Interesting results. But yes, this is what it absolutely looks like. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it. I don't think there's Supreme Court races. But anyway, with that being said, what do you guys think about our video? Let me know down below. And as always, see you all in the next political episode.